Hey everybody, I'm Autumn Stringham. I'm your mom coach, and I'm back for the third episode of Mom Triage 101. So if you haven't seen episode 1 and 2, make sure you go on back and find those, check in, look at the skills and the resources that we've talked about there, because it's really foundational for this conversation. So far we have talked about, brief overview, your kid is having a meltdown, and it may have lasted for days. It may have only been just tonight, just something that shows up, but you are needing to decide what comes next. You're the mom. This is up to you. Who's the mom? You. Who decides what comes next? You do. It's all on you. And sorry to say, this isn't a decision that you can defer safely to somebody else who doesn't know your kid. I understand the whole thing about, take your kid to the doctor because they're losing it. That's an important resource to use, but you got to remember, they don't know your child. So whatever's happening in that moment, they're only seeing this much, and you've already seen this much. It's huge, it's massive. So you need to be able to figure out what comes next. Okay, you've already determined in step 1 that your child is not in imminent danger of suicide. And of course, we go through all of those resources in episode 1, how to determine that and what comes next. In episode 2, you've determined which part is real and which part is chemistry. It's all real. Which part is real life circumstantial and which part is chemical. Step 3 actually addresses both of those scenarios on some level. So even if it's a circumstantial situation that your kid is facing, sometimes we can be pushed beyond our ability to manage. And it's important for us to be able to take a step back, and occasionally we need rest. And by rest, I mean a full medical checkout. I've done it before in my life, in my 20s, when I was being treated, early 20s, as a psychiatric patient, shortly after the death of my mother's suicide, after some other pretty major trauma came to light, some other physical illnesses that just kind of pushed me over, things that I just could not manage on my own and did not have the tools, the tools to deal with. I welcomed rest. And for me, that meant going to the doctor, getting a shot in the behind, and sleeping for 3 days, and then waking up and trying again. And sometimes rest is really all you can do. So leaning in on medical intervention for that purpose makes all the sense in the world to me. There are people who don't have resources like that or choose not to use legal ones, and they will do dangerous things like self-medicating and checking out completely. Not a great option. This kind of checkout needs to be done under supervision. So I'm not equating the two entirely, but they're pretty similar and really for the same reasons. So that, I think, is the purpose of medical intervention when it comes to these kind of things. So even if it's a circumstantial pain that your daughter is going through, or your son, employing a medical resource for that reason makes sense to me. However, that is only when somebody is pushed to the nth degree and you feel like they are in some measure of danger of self-harm. And you have to do that realizing that most, if not all medications that can create that kind of rest also have a list of side effects, the length of my forearm, and can cause harm also. So you have to weigh the risk and benefit in those cases. Every time that it's possible, I really believe that as a mom, you've got to follow that instinct that tells you that your child can be well and whole, and that you have the capacity to lean in and support in new and innovative ways to help your kid get through this difficult time. And that's where feel better strategies come into play. So I've been busy for a long time filling up Feel Better with Autumn Stringham, the group on Facebook, and we're just starting to get people in now. building resources over the last 24 years, understanding the resources that need to go into something like this to allow people to get the answers to the questions that they have, and then be able to feel empowered to be able to actually be the parents that they need to be in order to employ that for their children. I'll give you some examples of some feel better strategies. In a case like this with a kid that's having a difficult time, the first thing that I would do is employ micronutrition. The same formulation that my dad developed for me has been used in thousands of people worldwide. There's 34 different medical studies to show that it works on a number of common threads that run through multiple diagnoses. And what we see is that people generally, regardless of diagnosis, in a short period of time, will have a massive increase in calm, in a sense of satisfaction, and the ability to manage emotion in a healthier way. Literally, the ability to cope with circumstantial stress goes way up in a short period of time. Short study, adult ADHD patients in New Zealand. There was an earthquake smack in the middle of their study where they were studying the effect of this formulation on ADHD adults, and they had a control group and the whole 9 yards. And what they discovered was that the adults who, in the middle of this literal earthquake in Christchurch, New Zealand, were able to feel better and handle the stress over the weeks that they were given these questions post-earthquake, they felt so much better than the people who were using the placebo and even the control group who were not using either one. And it's important to know that certain micronutrients in the right balance, in that perfect Empower Plus balance, same stuff that I've been using for 24 years, makes such a difference in the brain in terms of usability, in terms of balance, and being able to function with all of the systems that you need it to work with, and to be calm and clear-headed and functional on a level that you never thought possible. So, Mom, if you're dealing with teenagers, you need that kind of calm, coping, and mental clarity. Dad also needs that. And then you need to be able to stand with your feet on the ground and feel rock solid, so that when your kids come into crisis, you can help them also. There are other practices that are really important, but that I think are super difficult to employ without that foundation of calm, coping, and clarity. So once you've got that nutritional thing under wraps, then you can move into other habits. So if you've got time and your kid is not in imminent danger and not so far over that they are so broken that they can't be helped without just some rest, try to employ these things. Get that foundation, that strong foundation of calm, coping, and clarity, and then come back to Feel Better with Autumn Stringham on Facebook and learn about these other methods that I've been teaching for years, including special ways to get your sleep and to discipline yourself as a sleeper, journal keeping, and being able to process trauma in a healthy way, basic belief systems that will help you to see things in a different way and to find the positive, even in traumatic events, realizing that reality, when you see it for what it really is always kind. And there's always a side to it, no matter what has happened, that will allow you to be able to grow and develop as a person. And if you can teach your teenagers these principles now, they will grow into the adults that they really need to be to live in this interesting world that we're living in right now. The last thing that I wanted to be able to share with you before I just invite you all to come back on over to Feel Better with Autumn Stringham and engage in the conversation, and let me coach you a little bit and help you with a whole bunch of the things that I've learned over the last quarter century, is that you have the capacity to love your children unconditionally, and that when you are solid yourself, you will find real joy in being able to love them beyond what you thought you were capable of, and that they can feel that and know it and find strength in that. You have a powerful, powerful position as a mother in this world, and the impact that you have on their lives and on the lives of all of the people in your community as a result is immeasurable. Embrace that, just own it, and stand in your power a little bit here and just realize that by virtue of your place in a child's life, you have the capacity to make a difference beyond anything that you ever thought possible. So with that, I want to invite you, come on over to Feel Better with Autumn Stringham. Ask me your questions in DMs. I'll be your Facebook friend, and we can work together to help your family to keep it together and feel better as a family. And I will see you over there. Okay, bye-bye.